What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome to episode 15 of our Liverpool FC playthrough here in Football Manager 2016. Hopefully you guys are good. Today we have a live comm against Sevilla in the Champions League. I actually played more games than I anticipated I was going to play from the start of the season till now. We're 6 games in, we've also played 1 game in the Champions League. Let's have a look at those results for you. And looking at it here, following on from really that setback where we drew very late on in the first game of the season against Sheffield Wednesday, we've come back stronger. The first result following this was a 3-1 win against Derby, Lacazette grabbing another, Firmino and Ings also getting on the score sheet. Good to see us grabbing plenty of goals, especially Lacazette, who to be honest has been in fine form. As you can see, we then took on Newcastle. It was another 3-1 win, and again Lacazette getting on the score sheet. Also good to see Axel Witsel get his first goal for the club. Unfortunately, he is one of a number of players who's got injured since the last episode. He's currently out with a dislocated shoulder for between 4 and 6 weeks. Pretty big miss for us, and combined, I guess, with some other injuries, we are a little bit kind of lacking in a bit of strength in depth. Anyway, the next result was an absolutely fantastic one. Definitely the highlight of this kind of run of fixtures as we beat Man City 4-1. We spanked them. Nathaniel Clyne getting a very unlikely hat-trick. Didn't score a goal last season. Got 3 in perhaps the biggest game of the season, or certainly one of them. So that was a great home win against City. Following on from this, 2 defeats though. First one came against Celtic, and if we look at our Champions League group, we got drawn with Benfica, Sevilla and Celtic, which on the face of it, I was quite happy with. I'm just hoping we can actually get through to the next round. Obviously, top 2 teams go through. We dodged some pretty horrific groups. I think there was one group that had Dortmund and PSG in. There were some very bad groups, and this was probably one of the better ones to get. So I'm hoping today, taking on Sevilla, who also lost against Benfica, albeit by 1 goal, that we might be able to get our kind of, I guess, European Championship campaign off to a slightly better kind of start, I guess, following that initial defeat. Anyway, next result against Tottenham, our kind of bogey team, it feels like, in this save. You can see here, Firmino sent off in the 68th minute. We were already 2-1 down at that point. To be honest, I felt a little bit hard done by. Coutinho scored a really nice team goal. In fact, I'm going to show you this goal because it was a very nice goal. We'll put it in 3D too. But yeah, this was a really nice goal that we scored. It was a really nice passing move. And this is the kind of football that we've been playing in spells this year. We've been scoring a lot of goals. I guess the Celtic game and this game were kind of exceptions to the rule. But yeah, this was a really nicely worked goal. It came to Joe Allen, who I believe did a back heel, which I was just like, that is not a Joe Allen thing to do. I think it's coming up here. It is. Little back heel to Lacazette, 1-touch passing. Just 4 really crisp passes, just cut open that Tottenham defence. Unfortunately, as I mentioned, we could not stay ahead in that game, and we did end up kind of, I guess, losing that lead and losing 2-1. Anyway, the next game was another pretty disappointing result as we relied on penalties to beat Brentford. Now, Brentford were promoted to the Premier League this year, and I did rotate my team a little bit, but regardless, it was a bitterly disappointing result for it to go to penalties, and I did feel quite fortunate to go through in the end. Anyway, the last result of this run of fixtures, 3-1 win against Aston Villa. We've had a few 3-1s so far this season. This was another. Danny Ings grabbing 2, Lacazette grabbing another. Alexandre Lacazette, definitely been the player, I guess, of the season so far. 6 goals in 6 league games, as well as 3 assists. Really can't ask for any more than that from this guy. Looking like if he can continue kind of in this form, he's going to be an absolute bargain for us. So, I mentioned a few injuries. Let's have a look at them. So, first things first, you'll see I'm resting a lot of players. That's because we're kind of screwed in Europe because we've not got the biggest squad, and a lot of the players I registered have now got injured. So we've got the likes of Richardly Bazor. Thank you to you guys in the comments who told me how to say this guy's name, because it's not Bazoa, it's Bazor. I'm probably going to forget that. He's unfortunately out with strained knee ligaments. He was only out for 6 weeks. A bit of a setback for a young player, but I'm hoping he can come back from it. You may notice up at the top left as well, he got his first cap for Holland, aged 19. So the 19-year-old bursting onto the international scene. Hoping we'll see him in kind of that Holland team for years to come. Other injuries, Szczesny is out with a dislocated shoulder, as is Witsel. Both got dislocated shoulders within a few days of each other, which was a little bit odd. And Coutinho also got injured in the Brentford game in extra time. He's got damaged knee cartilage and is out for a few weeks. So those injuries have kind of hurt us a little bit because it's 4 injuries to our Champions League squad. You'll see here a few players, because of how big my squad is, I couldn't register for the Champions League. We actually have a lack of homegrown players, which I knew was going to be a bit of a problem in last year in the Europa League. It was too. But with our squad getting bigger this year, it meant that some players just had to miss out on the chance to play, which is a real shame. Of course, in the next few years, this shouldn't become as much of a problem, simply because we signed a lot of young players who are eligible to become homegrown at the club. So, in time, they will be counted as homegrown, and as a result, we'll be able to have a bigger squad selected. So, with all of that said, we don't really have a choice for our team or bench because we only have 18 players eligible to play. Sevilla finished third in La Liga BBVA last year. So they're not a pushover team by any means. Of course, they were in the Champions League last year. If we look at where they are in the league at the moment, I'm not sure where they are. They're actually in 8th. They've had a pretty rough start. They've only lost one game, but they've drawn against Atletico and Real, and they lost to Valencia. So they're not going to be an easy team for us to beat. I'm hoping we can do a good job here. You guys might notice Real Oviedo getting promoted first season into Liga BBVA, which is pretty nice. So anyway, this is our team for the game. Just a quick rundown, I guess, of players who have been performing well so far this year. Nathaniel Klein got that hat-trick, which was superb. Obviously, the young English fullback was a good player for us last year. He was definitely one of our better performers. So far this year, he's on course to have an absolutely incredible season. He has 2 man of the matches in 6 league games, 3 goals and 3 assists. He only actually ended up on 6 assists last year. It felt like he maybe got to 5 by Christmas, and then he kind of tailed off a little bit. So that's pretty pleasing to see him getting off to a good start. Andrew Robertson's done well. Obviously, Moreno was out with an injury at the start of the season. I don't know if I mentioned that, but he was out for about a month. So this guy, obviously, we signed to be that backup. He's done a great job since he came in. 7.48 average rating across 5 league games he's played in. Today, however, Moreno does get his spot back at left back. And also Kurt Zouma, I guess an honourable mention, a player worth kind of noting the fact he's doing well for us. You'll see he's made 2 more appearances for the French national squad, which is really nice. Sakho's still not in the national side. I'm hoping we'll see him there soon. And so far this year, he's done pretty decent. In the league, 6.97 average rating, but he's had some good international performances. And in the Champions League game that we lost 2-1 against Celtic, despite losing, he had a very good performance. So anyway, let's get into today's game. As you can see, player condition is fairly decent. Obviously rested the players to just make sure they were fit with all these injuries kind of going on. It's not been an ideal situation because you're having to play players a lot without much of a break, and as a result they get tired pretty quickly. But I'm confident we can do well here. Sevilla, though, not going to be a pushover side, not going to be an easy game. We were the 3rd seed in our Champions League group, so really my minimum expectation is that we reach the Europa League by finishing 3rd in the group. In reality, though, I think the real aim has got to be top 2, but if we were to lose this, whilst we couldn't really, give up on that kind of hope and that aspiration of finishing top 2, it would be a massive, massive dent if we failed to get 3 points here, because, well, having no points from your first 2 games is never good. But in the Champions League, it's just, it makes for a near impossible task with your remaining games, and it's not a situation I want to find us in. So we'll see how we get on here. Looking at the stats at the moment, we're dominating possession. Sevilla only with the 1 shot on target. We have 58% possession. Fairly good start. I'm looking for more of the same. I'm hoping Lacazette and Danny Ings are going to form a bit of a partnership here over this season. Lacazette, as I mentioned, he's really been the standout man this year. I was a little bit concerned when I spent £43 million or whatever it was. It was 40 plus million. It was a record transfer for Liverpool that perhaps he wouldn't repay us and perhaps he'd turn into Andy Carroll V2. That's certainly not been the case. The Frenchman has looked absolutely superb in front of goal for us. But anyway, looking at it at the moment, just nothing happening. I'm hoping we're not going to have one of those once-in-a-blue moon games where there's just no highlights except at kickoff because, well, it would make for a pretty boring live com. We need a goal. We have a chance here, though. As I say that, Ings cutting inside. Lacazette hits the post rebound. Can't get it in, and that's so unlucky. That was our first real chance of the game. Lacazette hitting the post. Nice little bit of interplay. Throw into Danny Ings, cutting inside. Rather unselfishly laying it across, but Lacazette just not able to find the target. I'm going to tell the players I'm not happy. They look fired up. We only have the 1 booking in Sakho. I almost want to take Sakho off just because he has a bit of a reputation for getting sent off. But at the same time, we don't really have an incredible centre-back who I could reliably put into the team and know that he's going to do the same job Sakho can do. So at the moment, we'll stick with what we're doing. Looking at it though, very much the same pattern has been going on throughout this game. Sevilla not had a shot yet this half, although we are only 3 minutes in. But to only have one shot on target in the entire game, and that came quite early on, is pretty pleasing. We have a set piece here. Ball whipped in, Sacco, back post, Zuma nods it back across. Can someone hit the target, please? No, they cannot, and it will be scrambled away. I think it was Sacco flicked onto the back post. Kurt Zuma nodded it back into the 6-yard box, but unfortunately for us, it just didn't fall to anyone's feet. So we have got some options off the bench. I think we might make a change here. The question is, what change do I really want to make? Danny Ings, not having the best of games. I'm going to take him off for Daniel Sturridge. I think that's the only change we'll make for now. If in an ideal world, I'd probably bring on a different centre mid at this point, but because of the injuries and because of the registration rules, it means we're without Bizor, we're without Witzel, and we're out without Thiago Maya. So in those 3 players, we kind of lose all 3 of our backup centre mids. Now, I have got Cubas out on loan in Argentina. Decided not to recall him, just because the injuries aren't super long term, and we do have some options when it's not European games, and it's because of the limited kind of registered squad that we're kind of without a centre mid on the bench really. We've been pretty unfortunate with injuries so far, and also Coutinho should be added to the list because of course he plays centre mid for us too. Anyway, Lacazette's had a pretty poor game by his standards. I'm going to bring on Christian Benteke. I'm also going to take off Jordan Ibe, who's struggling a little bit, I think, and I'm going to bring on Carter Bia, who had a bit of a mare last time out, the young Argentine, but he's capable of playing down the middle. Obviously, he joined us this year on a relatively cheap deal, and at 23, he's a good little player, and he's kind of like a slightly worse Coutinho. He kind of very similar player, I guess, very athletic, quite fast, not super fast though, but good vision, good creativity. And I'm hoping he can do something for us here and maybe unlock the door of this Sevilla defence. Looking at it, 15 minutes left. It's been a pretty disappointing display, you'd have to say, by our team. We've not done enough, I don't think, going forward. And I guess that's kind of shown by the fact that, well, the scores is still 0-0. I'm going to change our fullbacks to attack and our roaming playmaker to an advanced playmaker. Going to try and throw just a few more men forward. To draw this game at home wouldn't be the end of the world, but a win would be infinitely better. And, you know, might as well just try 1 or 2 things to maybe get us an edge. But it looks like this is going to be a bore draw. There is 30 seconds left. Unless we're going to score an incredibly late goal here, which could happen. Klein, options inside. Can he find the pass? He can't. And Sevilla probably going to deal with that. And that's probably going to mark full time. A very disappointing game. Not the most entertaining game for you guys to watch. A real lack of cutting edge, which is something that we haven't had this year. I'm going to tell the players that I'm not happy with that. You know, it's a point. It's not a defeat. We get off the mark. The other game in our group, Celtic won, and they are the 4th seed, so they've had a fantastic start. The next game against Benfica is going to be quite a significant one. If we were to win that, that would put us in a pretty good situation. The chances are we'd move up to 2nd, depending on how Sevilla get on against Celtic, who are top of the group. So, that wraps up this game. And this episode, I'm really disappointed with that. That was very underwhelming. In terms of when we'll be back next time, I think the next game I'll do will probably be the Manchester United game in the league. I'm trying to space out the matches just that little bit more, just because last season I felt like we perhaps did just a few too many episodes. I'd love to know what you guys think in terms of your ideal kind of, I guess, regularness and how often you'd like to see episodes. Maybe we'll do that Benfica game, the 2nd Benfica Champions League game. I've not made up my mind yet. Let me know which game you'd like to see. Who knows, maybe we'll end up doing both in 2 separate episodes. But anyway, that's going to wrap things up from me, guys. Thank you so much for watching as always. If you have enjoyed, smash the like button. Got any comments, let me know how often you like to see episodes. Once a month? Would you like one at the start of every month? I'd love to know your thoughts. And other than that, it is me, Jack, and I'll talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.